and to lay siege to her disintegrating nerves. So subtle and poisonous is the narcissistic variant of sadism that it might well be regarded as the most dangerous of all. But still, it's not sadism in any sense, because it's not focused on the pain. It's focused on manipulation. In this sense, the narcissist's sadism is psychopathic, and is very, very close to the psychopathic sadist. Luckily, the narcissist's attention span is short, his resources and energy limited. In constant, effort-consuming and attention-diverting pursuit of narcissistic supply, the narcissist lets his victims go, usually before the victim had suffered irreversible damage. The victim is then free to rebuild her life, albeit from ruins. It's not an easy undertaking, this, but it's far better than the total obliteration which await the victims of a true sadist. Narcissists generally are interested only in one thing, and that is narcissistic supply. They couldn't care less if, when obtaining narcissistic supply, while obtaining narcissistic supply, they're hurting other people. Hurting other people is a byproduct. It's a side effect with narcissists. It's not a goal. It's not an aim. It's not what the narcissist strives for. The narcissist doesn't derive any gratification and is not invested emotionally, is not affected in sadism, in hurting people, in damaging people, in ruining people. Narcissists don't care about any of this because they don't care about people. Two components to sadistic supply. Contempt. Contempt. I don't need you even as a source of supply. I am so far superior to you that there is nothing you can say or do that is relevant to my life. And the second message in sadistic supply, I have the power to hurt you. I have the power to cause a change in your internal mental state. I have the power to hurt you. And the sadistic supply is so addictive, so much more potent than narcissistic supply, that often the narcissist would sacrifice narcissistic supply in order to generate sadistic supply. And I keep giving the example of a woman who comes to the narcissist and offers herself. And she's drop-dead gorgeous and the sexiest thing on earth. And the narcissist would prefer to not have sex with her because frustrating her, humiliating her, rejecting her, especially in public, gives him a high which far exceeds anything the sex itself or the narcissistic supply of boasting about the sex could give him later on. Once the narcissist has been exposed to sadistic supply, they convert to the new religion. The overwhelming vast majority of narcissists prefer narcissistic supply until they had experienced sadistic supply. From that moment, they are addicted to crack cocaine, not to normal cocaine, because it's a far stronger drug. And so the way to convert a narcissist to a sadistic narcissist is to give him the power to hurt and humiliate others, especially publicly. This is an experience that will convert him and transform him. He's changed forever. He's changed forever. And then it will be clear that I'm untouchable, and therefore I'm godlike, therefore I'm immune. And so there's a hierarchy there. But as you can see, the only way to prove to himself that he has power over people is to hurt them. So this is sadism. The psychopath sadism is instrumental. The psychopath uses sadism, uses the infliction of pain on others in order to test the limits of his power, in order to induce in them fear which would not generate adverse outcomes for the psychopath. But of course, the psychopath enjoys hurting other people, but he enjoys hurting other people not the way the classical sadist does. The classical sadist enjoys hurting other people because they are like toys. He's playing with them, and it gives him the sensation of omnipotence, godlike omnipotence, especially the sexual sadist. The psychopath enjoys hurting other people because this constitutes his reality testing. By hurting other people, he comes to learn about himself. He becomes self-aware through other people's anguish. He observes the outcomes of his actions, and then he says, okay, I've learned something about myself. I've learned something about my power. I've learned something about my victims and targets. And there is a sense of enlightenment. There is a sense in the psychopath of having improved himself, bettered himself, as if torturing other people, tormenting them, hurting them, causing them pain is the path to self-enlightenment, is the path to self-perfection, is the path to self-awareness and self-consciousness and self-control. So the psychopath's skill is pain and hurt and power and control and fear. This is his métier, this is his profession. And of course his raw material are people. So it's not exactly sadism in the clinical sense. There's no enjoyment of the pain itself. There is an enjoyment of what the pain reveals, other people's pain reveals to the narcissist about himself, which allows him to become more self-efficacious and more self-aware. Some psychopaths are sadistic. Psychopaths who are also sadistic. And sadists, people with the now discarded diagnosis of sadistic personality disorder. So these two types, the sadistic psychopath and the sadist, they seek only sadistic supply. They are not interested in narcissistic supply. They actually want to fly under the radar. They want to remain hidden. These people derive sustenance for their own grandiosity from the very fact that they have the power to hurt other people, that they are in the position to cause other people to disintegrate, to make them ashamed, make them feel ashamed, or to humiliate them, especially in public. But this is not a narcissistic thing. That's where the confusion online is enormous, and you are being misled. This is not a narcissistic thing. This is a psychopathic, a sadistic psychopathic thing, or a sadistic thing. Sadistic psychopaths and sadists regard people as raw material. They play with people the way children disassemble toys, dismantle them. They want to see the inner workings of people. It's a pastime. It's a hobby. It's an avocation where, for the sadistic psychopath and the sadist. And finally, borderlines alternate between these two types of supply, narcissistic and sadistic. They are capable of both, and they pursue both types of supply depending on the self-state. When the borderline is in a secondary psychopathic self-state, she is usually, or he is usually, very cruel, to the point of sadism. The borderline enjoys inflicting pain because she regards it as retribution, redressing evil, restoring justice. That is how she mislabels her sadism. Remember, previous video I explained to you that this borderline is goal-oriented, but she dresses up her goals with emotions. She mislabels her goals. She mistakes her goals for emotional states. That is a form of resolving cognitive dissonance. The borderline feels uncomfortable with what she's doing. So by relabeling it or mislabeling it, she restores her inner balance and her anxiety level is reduced.